Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF44 coming at you with another video. All right, so get used to these videos popping up left and right because news is coming and coming fast. Bradley Beal has decided to opt out of his player option with the Wizards and test free agency. He's finally leaving the Wizards. He's finally leaving the Washington Wizards. I think it's the greatest idea for him. I think it's the greatest decision for him because he's given as much time to that franchise as they should be given. Um, they're headed in the right direction. Don't get it twisted. I like where they're headed, but for them, it's more about the youth movement, kind of moving forward, trying to put pieces around Porzingis and or move Porzingis as well, shave off that salary and just go completely rebuild, which probably makes even more sense to me if I'm Washington. But I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to go forward with KP. I think they're going to try to bring him another player to run with. And, Kuzma may make a big jump this year. Probably see what they could do, shuffle the lineup, draft who they have. I think they have like a pick somewhere in the middle of the lottery. So I think they're in a very good spot. In fact, I really like their situation if I were a GM, especially with him getting off the books. Now, it is kind of unfortunate that they're not going to be able to sign a trade, but that's free cap space. So you'll understand to live with that if you're the front office. But for the fan base, this is a pretty sad day, I would imagine. I don't know. I haven't tested the sentiment. I don't know how people feel, but Bradley Beal's been there for so long. I mean, he was their homegrown guy. Tried to stick it out with them several times over. I'm sure they have plenty of love for him. So I can only imagine, but I think it's right for everybody. I think it's time for the Washington Wizards to move on. This is the last remnants of the John Wall era. Moving on from Bradley Beal completely makes you a different team from that. And I don't know. I mean, you look at a situation. You say Bradley Beal is a player who's probably been with the Wizards for too long. But then if you're the Washington Wizards, on the other hand, you look at it and you're saying you're losing the player with the likes of Bradley Beal. So it's like it's hard to look at it the right way. Because for the Wizards, it is time to move on. There's a such thing as being somewhere too long and not getting it done. There's a such thing as just not having the same timeline as where we're at as a franchise. So I think that's where we've just become. That's where we're at. I'd love to see Bradley Beal team up with Dame Lillard. I know that that's not necessarily the greatest fit because neither one of them are defensive players. Um, I don't think Portland should necessarily take that chance in theory. But given the fact that Dame needs to win now, given the fact that Bradley needs to win now, I don't think either one of them doing anything. They might as well team up together. You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. Maybe you just do it for a year, see what happens. But I just love the idea of having that potent of a backcourt on my floor at one time. And even though they're not that great defensively, in that cap space, that salary situation is disgusting. I think Bradley Beal is the type of player who could probably play off of Dame Lillard just as well as anybody since Dame is used to playing with CJ. Bradley Beal could give a little flavor of that. Uh, you know, Bradley's used to playing with ball dominant point guards. He can do that, play off of guys like that very well. Pick which one of them you want to defend. The other one's going to kill you for 40. I just really think the Portland Trailblazers um, win a lot of games with that duo. Now, granted, they're not going to win a championship, so they probably should keep on the trail they're on. But then again, that doesn't mean that they can't team up somewhere else. Now, where that would be, I don't know. But just a thought. I would love to see that type of scoring in the backcourt. I think it could be significantly potent um, offensively. So, just a thought. Nothing too serious. Nothing I think is actually going to happen. At the end of the day, Bradley Beal's going to have some fantastic suitors that are going to be realistic. Places like Miami, places like Boston, place like Denver, I think is realistic for him. Depending on Denver's situation, how they want to do with their cap, I don't know about that. They would have to shave salary. I don't think they're realistic at all, actually. That would be a good fit, nevertheless. Dallas has been brought up as a good fit. But all of these teams now become, I want to say, out of the mix, I guess. They're out of the mix because they would have to free up that cap space in order to facilitate um, being able to take on his salary. And I don't know how they would do that right away. Um, unless they take on Russell Westbrook's contract and stretch it, which would then make it available right away. But I don't think anybody wants to do that. So that's $47 million. That you don't want to do that. But nevertheless, Bradley Beal will have his suitors. Miami makes a lot of sense, but they're gonna have to shave salary as well. So I don't know how the teams that he would be looking at would make moves for him. I think Donovan Mitchell wants to go to Miami too, so it's a lot going on. I'm not sure where Bradley Beal's going to end up. I think he would fit anywhere. I mentioned last night that I actually think he would be fantastic in Detroit, even though I don't think he would want to go there. I think he would be a ridiculous amount of scoring for a team that has a lot of young talent, but if they had a player like him, would be ridiculously capable of winning games and maybe even making the playoffs. I don't know. For him, he probably wants to shoot for the stars and win a championship, but I just don't know who has the money to pay him and the role that he would want to play in. Uh, which is why him opting out is tricky. You know what I mean? It's you're opting out, but the teams that have cap space aren't desirable teams. That's the problem. Are you going to San Antonio? Are you going to Orlando? Who's going to like? I just don't know why uh, testing free agency in that way makes sense, unless there's something that I just can't see. Maybe there's some stuff that's possible that I'm just not aware of sign and trade nature, but it seems like it makes more sense to opt in, take that money, and then make them trade that contract. But I'm pretty sure he has his reason. Maybe he feels he can get more money somewhere. Maybe he has a deal with someone like Portland. And see, that's the kind of thing I'm looking at. I'm like, man, who has his money? Then I look over at Dame. I'm like, yo, that kind of, I don't know, man. I look at Portland and I say, well, you just traded CJ. And you're going to bring in Bradley. Is that much of a difference? Isn't that kind of lateral at this stage? I don't know. CJ's headed upwards. He's getting better. Bradley's at a point where he's probably headed in the other direction, even though he can still do the same things he was able to do. How much longer? I don't know. So I don't think that really makes as much sense for Portland necessarily, unless Dame just say, I want to play with him. And like I said, they both. I mean, Dame is going to be in a situation where if Portland doesn't do something like that, he's got a lost season before it even starts. That's the issue. That's why I look at them as a team that could take on Bradley. I look at them as a team that could take on Ayton. And if they really want to get gung-ho, they can take on both of them and give Dame an actual opportunity. You know what I mean? Give him a real opportunity at a championship for this last hurrah this season with Portland. If they're not going to trade him, which I don't think they are. And then I have to ask, where's his conditioning? Like, if they do all this, is he even going to start the season healthy? I don't know. I have zero notion. So there's more to learn there. Obviously, they have a good pick that they can use in trade equity if they want to make a move. Maybe that can soften the blow in regards to what they'll have to give up if they include the pick. So that could be something that could be very interesting. For some reason, I can't shake the idea that Portland will be in play for somebody that's a max contract. They have the cap space. They just cleared up that cap space. They've been bad for a little while now, and they do have Dame on the hook that they really would rather not trade. Now, when you get out from under a bad cap situation, the last thing you want to do is take on extra salary. But I think the idea is to just not make some of the same mistakes that you made in the past so that you don't find yourself in such a hole. But that you play the luxury tax, you've been playing that. Now it can just be for a reason. So I guess that's one way to look at it if you're Portland, especially if you love Dame and you want to honor him for all that he's done for you, and honor yourselves by giving yourself a chance at a championship, for which the city of Portland deserves and is probably not even expecting. But the reality is they have the opportunity and the cap space for the first time in a very long time to really do something like this. And I think it would be pretty cool to kind of see Dame Lillard on a really good team. So I'm not saying they should go the 3 max contract route because that's dangerous. But if you're going all in, that's one option that teams often try. Now, I think they should get in play for Ayton. The more I think about this, the more I'm deviating away from Bradley Beal and I'm centering my mindset on Ayton, because I look at the Portland situation and I say, who are they running at center this year? if I'm not mistaken, my mind goes straight to Nurkic, who probably could use a change of scenery since he was complaining about that place over 2 years ago. And he hasn't been that great of a center for them since the injuries and stuff. So, I mean, picking up Ayton would be a phenomenal upgrade for the Portland Trailblazers. Um, and I don't see too many places for him to really land and make sense. Now, what would it take to get him? I have to use the trade tracker. I don't know. But what I do know is that the Portland Trailblazers have the salary and they do have that pick, that lottery pick that they could use to sweeten the deal. Now, they would have to involve other teams and stuff like that to try to make it so that they can make the salary make sense. Um, Obviously, they're the ones that's giving up Ayton, so it wouldn't be much for them to give up, more so what it would take to get him back and what they would be willing to take back in salary. So I guess they're in the catbird seat if I'm thinking clearly. Now, from here, what does Portland have to give up? I guess it's a question of, that just has to be determined by the numbers, like I said, on the trade tracker, for which I don't have in front of me. So they got it somehow. The money's definitely there. It's made up in a bunch of players of some sort, or in some cap equity of some sort that they have available to them to trade, taking on bad salaries or something like that to make it happen. So, yeah, I think Portland should really consider it, because they can build through the draft if they want to. But then what are they doing with Dame? You know what I mean? Like, what, you just gonna have him hanging on the hook for that? Nah. I would commit to either trading him or doing something like I just said, going all in and seeing what happens. Because Portland ain't won something since the 70s, man. And the way I see it is the Western Conference could potentially be somewhat wide open next year for any team that wants to gung-ho go for it. Because I think the Golden State Warriors, even though everybody's expecting them to be the great Golden State Warriors next season, I think they're going to be significantly weaker in their role-playing areas, because they're gonna have to pay a lot of money to keep that team together. And even if they are willing to pay it all, I still think some of those guys are gonna go get some money, particularly Gary Payton and Kevon Looney. So if that happens, I don't think they're the same team, and I don't know how they're gonna be able to make up that loss of defense. So that means they may be out the way to a degree for somebody else to step up. Memphis, Minnesota, Clippers, Denver, San Antonio, I take a little more seriously this season. I think those teams will take Pelicans, obviously. Those teams that are going to be the teams that I think are good next year. Phoenix, I think, is going to potentially take a step backwards. Some of the teams that weren't very good last year, that were young teams, may scrape and try to reach into the play-in tournament. Maybe, who knows, maybe one of those type of teams that you're not expecting, like Sacramento, or maybe the Lakers can kind of squeeze in and make a play-in tournament situation happen for themselves. But all in all, for a team like Portland, if they were to do some gung-ho, I just want to go and get a super team started for myself type of situation, they could potentially vault themselves to a contention in what I consider to be potentially a semi-weak Western Conference once again, because I thought it was that last year. So yeah, who knows, man? Who knows? I think it's an opportunity for teams to do something. And look, I gotta say, I made a video about the Clippers and their assets, and I do think their assets aren't as good because their stars aren't reliable necessarily. Like, I don't know how much trade equity you would get for a Norman Powell per se, but I do want to make sure it's said that Terrence Mann has pretty good trade value, I think, going into this year. And Amir Coffey should have very good trade value going into this year as well. Now, I'm not getting rid of those guys if I'm the Clippers, but if I want to make a big splash and land a Kyrie Irving or land a Bradley Beal myself, or even try to make a splash for Ayton, I do want to say that I may have underestimated some of those pieces that they could use when you consider Luke Kennard's contract may help match certain deals. And he's a good enough player to where you can say, okay, well, I'll take his contract and Coffee and Mann, and then I'll give you good player. So I could see the Clippers getting involved in some things based on that type of package that I wasn't considering. Hartenstein, Zubats. You start putting together some of those guys, and you could probably land a Bradley Beal, Kyrie Irving for real. Probably could. So I just want to amend that. When I start realizing I don't have things clear, I will come back and let y'all know, hey, I'm seeing it clearly now. I have no problem doing that. So it is what it is. Yeah, all in all, free agency is gonna give us a lot to talk about, man. I'm paying attention to PJ Tucker. That's who I'm looking at. And I know he's not going to be one of the first dominoes to fall, but I think he's going to be one of the most important ones. Because no matter what team he's on, he's going to give you that championship level play in the most important times. So throughout the regular season, you don't care. But when it comes playoff time and he's healthy, he's going to be a dog on that floor, and he's probably going to help you hoist a championship. So he's just one of the more important pieces in my mind. Not only for what he brings in that way, but also for what he brings for culture. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. And, yeah, I'll keep you guys posted. I guess I'll just go back and listen to this one. And if something comes back up, I'll pop up with another video for you. BDL44. Thank y'all for watching. I'm out.